the Pinebook Pro. At $199, it's hard to really not like this device. Hello, and thank you for tuning into .slash. This is my first hardware review. I'm normally doing how-tos and distro reviews and whatnot, but I bought this device and I think it's amazing, especially for how much it costs. So I thought I'd share a little bit of my first impressions, kind of like have a first look, and I'll probably do more on specific things in the future. But for now, I'm just going to do a little overview of this thing here. It's the Pinebook Pro, $199, runs Linux, has an ARM processor. That's two, actually, but I'll get to that. The display, gorgeous, surrounded by plastic bezel with a nice keyboard, nice touchpad, really good touchpad, surprisingly. And the top case behind the screen and the bottom is magnesium alloy. So it's like a metal shell with plastic on the other side. So not the whole thing is metal, but the important parts are metal. It's really nice. I really like the quality of the case, the quality of the hinge, the quality of the screen. It's a gorgeous device. It's very light. It's like 2.5 pounds and 14-inch screen. So fits nicely into a little sleeve and easy to carry around. It reminds me very much of a MacBook Air. And it feels just as solid, especially with the top and bottom case being metal when you're carrying it around. The top is unbranded. The lid is just black metal. Everything is unbranded. There's nothing on it that says Pinebook Pro. The only thing is the mod key, which would normally be like the Windows key, has the little Pine logo on it. But other than that, it is completely unbranded. On the right side, you've got yourself a USB 2.0 headphone jack and an SD card reader, micro SD card reader. And it's actually a bootable card reader, which is nice because you could download whatever ISO that you want that will work on ARM and hopefully is made for the Pinebook. It'll work a little better. And then you just flash the ISO onto the SD card, pop it in, reboot, and it'll boot from the SD card before booting onto the internal eMMC hard drive. It's a little slower, but it still works really well, and that kind of gives you like a dual boot possibility, which is nice. I'll talk about that a little more. On the left side, we've got a power light indicator with the barrel plug 5 volt, USB 3, and USB-C. Now the plug is fine. It's a straight plug with a tiny pin, and I kind of worry sometimes. It looks really fragile. It feels solid. It just looks fragile, and I worry about breaking it off. But again, I haven't heard of that. The USB-C is supposed to be able to charge via USB-C plug, but I don't have a USB-C charger, so I can't really test that out. Apparently it works, but not 100% reliable. There's other quirks with that. There's going to be some things I talk about, all the pros and cons. There are pros, there are cons, but overall, it's a really good machine for the price. The operating systems that are available are varied. If you go look at the Pinebook Pro wiki, so just Google Pinebook Pro wiki, will be the first link here. It actually shows you the software and iOS image downloads. So you can click here and you're going to have the default Debian image that you can download here from Mr. Fixit's GitHub. Then there's Bionic, LXDE, Bionic Mate, which I'm going to show you as well, Manjaro ARM, which I will also show you, Q4OS, Chromium, and Android. I haven't tried those yet. Also on this wiki is anything that you would need, any kind of technical information that you want. The schematics, everything is here. So it's an open source hardware running open source software, which is pretty fantastic. Looking at the device, here's the specifications. So you've got a Rockchip SoC with a Mali GPU, ARM is new to me. I've never purchased an ARM device other than a cell phone or a tablet. This is definitely my first ARM laptop. It's got 4 gigs of, oh wait, talking about the CPU, it's actually 2 CPUs. It is a quad core and a dual core, and they work together. It's a little dot big schema. You could Google that as well. Again, I'm not super familiar with it. I've only had this over a week. 4 gigs of LP DDR4 RAM, a 1080p IPS display, which looks fantastic. It's got a matte finish to it, so it's not shiny. There's not a lot of glare. Bootable SD, as I said, 64 gigs of eMMC, which is upgradable. That's the internal hard drive. PCIe with possibility of using an M.2 and NVMe drive. HD video out, USB 2, USB 3, polymer battery, speakers, headphone jack, microphone, front-facing camera. The camera isn't that great. It works, but it's pretty bad. And going back to the upgradable 64 gig of eMMC, if I just show you this here, it's a pretty simple device. If you take the screws off the bottom, there's I think 8 or 10 screws. Pop it off. I haven't done it yet, but I will. It's pretty simple. Like, this is the motherboard in the top right corner here, and it is a ROC 64 system on a chip, and they basically threw it in a laptop case and hooked up additional USB port and charger port, and the mouse, the trackpad, and the keyboard, and etc. They basically made this system on a chip device, this board, portable, and it works really well. The battery works really well. You can bypass the battery if you want to. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about it being upgradable yet. However, the overall system, I'm hoping in the future, if they come out with a newer, more powerful motherboard, more powerful CPU, GPU, and whatnot, hopefully you can just buy that, which will be quite inexpensive, pop open the case, swap that board out, and then just carry on. That would be really, really cool. Not saying that that's what's going to happen. It's entirely possible. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm hoping that that is the case. And the speakers, as you can see, are quite tiny. They're tinny. There were previous reports that they were really, really quiet. You could barely hear them. I think that was fixed through a software fix. They are actually quite loud, but they're not good quality. But hey, for this device, perfect. I can watch YouTube and videos, no problem. If you don't like that, you can use Bluetooth headphones or plug something into the headphone jack, and off you go. So let's go into the device itself. So this is the Pinebook Pro desktop. This is the default Debian that you get when you first turn on the device. It is Debian 9.9 running kernel 4.4. So just do a neo fetch. The keyboard is it's pretty nice. It's clicky. It's higher quality than other cheaper netbooks that I've used. The keys feel light, but they have a nice click. So it's something that you'd have to try. I'm pretty sure everybody's happy with it. For, again, everything is for the price. You can't really beat it. So yeah, Debian 9, kernel 4.4. The DE is Mate, and Mate seems to run the best. I've tried running KDE and I've tried running XFCE, and I don't know if it's the compositor or whatnot, but Mate runs the best. I've also run Bionic, so it's Ubuntu 18.04 using Mate, and it uses version 1.20 versus 1.16, which is what this is running, and it seems a little smoother. Here you get some, not tearing, I guess it's tearing. It's a little bit flashy, a little bit glitchy. But I'll also mention that you could see how the mouse kind of flickers and disappears sometimes. This only happens, it only started happening when I plugged in the USB-C, because I'm recording this through the USB-C and through an external monitor. So when I plug it in, I get this flashing. If it's not plugged in, the mouse doesn't flash like this. and the graphics get a little bit better. They're not as bad as I can see right now in the recording when there's no external monitor plugged in. So videos and everything still good. It's just could be a little better. I'll show you Bionic in a second with Mate. It's a little better. And Manjaro ARM, which is even better, but it has its negatives. It has its cons for sure. But we'll see. I'll get into that. And the videos and the document editing, blah, blah, blah. It handles everything. But the best part of this device has nothing to do with the software or the hardware. I'll get into that later. So as you can see here, you've got a little tray applet to be able to use CPU Freak, so you can manually set the speed that it's going to run at, that the CPU is going to run at. If it's just kind of sitting idle, it runs at 408 megahertz and doesn't really do a whole lot. Bluetooth. I've only tried my Logitech MX Anywhere 2 mouse, and it was very, very choppy. The mouse wasn't moving smoothly at all. Again, could be firmware, software, no idea. This is very much a work in progress device. I mean, it's been around for a while. It works really well. I'm just saying, like, don't expect something like a Windows or a Mac laptop. This is an ARM CPU. It's very lightweight, but it's powerful for what it is. Moving along here, we have this little icon here. It's the update script to update from Mr. Fixit's repo. So password for Rock, the default username is Rock, and the default password is Rock. And then it'll say, do you want to update? You say yes, and it's going to do a quick check here. So this is a good update script. So I've already updated it, so it's saying no updates, and then it'll close. You also get this icon on your desktop when you first fire it up. Run this. It's going to update Widevine. I'm not sure how to say it, but it is the plugin for Chromium that lets you watch Netflix and Prime. So getting into that, first thing I'm going to say is set your CPU to 2 gigahertz if you want absolutely no stuttering and no tearing. Not saying there won't be any, there'll be a little tiny bit, but setting your CPU to the max frequency helps with that. If you're running on battery, you have to compromise. So if you want more battery life, you might have to deal with slower performance, but that's life. Battery life, by the way, is fantastic. I'll talk about that in a second. So the password is default Rock. That lets you change the frequency. Now in Bionic, it doesn't ask you for the password. So they did something with the groups to allow you to change this setting without needing to enter your password. So now we're pinned at 2 gigahertz, and I've already got a few things open here. I picked some kind of action-y parts, I guess, to show you, just so that there's some movement and whatnot. It might need to play for a couple of seconds just to get up to speed, because when you get the slow connection, it plays at a lower quality and then it jumps up. So we'll see what happens here. Got a couple of movies. I'm just going to play short clips, not too long, and then we'll see how well this works. And wait, there we go. And we're off. So I'll go full screen here, and we'll see some action. I don't know what's going on with the mouse there. It's never done that before, but okay. So you can see that it plays pretty nice. Trying to see it on the external video. It looks just as good as on the display. You'll see some, if you're really paying attention, there'll be some slight artifacts. There'll be some slight tearing, but remember what kind of device you're running here. You know, for watching movies, it's still an amazing device. It's very clear. It's very nice. So that is Netflix. And then we have Prime Video. It works well as well. And wait for it. Sometimes just switching to full screen, it makes it stutter a little bit. It does that in YouTube as well, but overall, it's pretty good. So you can see this is HD streaming. The sound is good. The sound is synced with the video, which is good. Now, this doesn't work in Bionic. I see it's switching to lower quality now. This doesn't work as well in Bionic, or it doesn't work at all in Bionic Mate for some reason. I think you can manually install WiDivine, whatever you want to call it, and get it to work, but I haven't been able to get it to work. So yeah, there you go. Some action, some movement. Works really well. So that's Netflix and Prime. And we've got, let's see if we're going to get some decent quality in this too. The quality is not the device. The quality is the streaming. So yeah, you can see it's clearing up now already. So works really good. I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, it's smooth. It's good. And I'm going to stop that before I get any kind of copyright complaints or anything. So what else can I show you here? The software installed. I'm not going to go through everything because you can install whatever you want. It's got the basics. It comes with Chromium and Firefox and HexChat and Office, and then a couple of media players, which I'll get into in a second. So LibreOffice works, but it's LibreOffice 5. If you update it, I'm sure you can get a newer version, but this acts a little funny. You can get, I think if you update, you can get LibreOffice 6.0, which looks the same, but you can see the flashing here in the title bar. This does this all the time. You can install Flatpaks. So get Flatpaks or snaps. I use Flatpaks, install LibreOffice, and then I have 6.3, which looks much better and doesn't have any weird menu flashing or anything like that. But you can use it like this as well. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to look at some videos here, if I can find where I put them. They would be here. So I'm running off of an SD card, which is why you can see these two here are the eMMC drive. There we go. So this one here. This is a 1080p video, and it works okay. Get into some high-speed video here. So if you have some movies on a drive that you want to watch, this is a really good option. Sometimes if you're not watching full screen and if it's scaling, the action will be a little worse because it's scaling the video, right? So you're not full screen, but full screen video, pretty smooth, very few artifacts, little bit of screen tearing, but can't really complain here. Come on, let's get something fast moving, huh? There we go. So yeah, looking at the recording here, looks pretty good. Not a lot of screen tearing, not a lot of artifacts, completely watchable for movies. So I'll close that. There is also open with MPV Media Player. Now, this is an issue, same issue in Bionic. I'm actually watching it right now on the Pinebook's screen, but it doesn't show up on an external device. It's playing it directly, it's hardware accelerated, it's playing it directly to the LCD panel on the laptop, so I can't show you that, but it does play smoother for sure. All right, so that covers a lot of that. Let's check out YouTube. So we'll go to YouTube. Yeah. And found another Formula One video that was pretty good. I'm not a Formula One fan, but it just seems that that's what works out well. Where is it? This one here. The action is pretty good. So YouTube is okay, a little slow to load pages. Disney Plus is really slow to load pages. Let's just get into some action here. Let's just turn the volume down. So there you go. Let's do, it's only on 360, 1080p. Now with YouTube, 1080p works smooth, as you can see. It's pretty good, even full screen here. We got that delay and a bit of stuttering there when you go to full screen, which happens regularly. So 1080p works really well. 720p, of course, even better. It works better in Chromium than on Firefox, although it depends on the video. But I will say that if you have any 1080p 60 frame per second videos, it's going to stutter, it's going to stall, it just can't handle the 60 frames per second. Even 720p at 60 frames per second is not very good. But as you can see, just regular old 1080p works really, really well. Let's get them doing some action here. Yeah, so 1080p video working really, really well. And again, remember the CPU is pinned at 2 gigahertz, but even if you take it down, put it back on demand, so you'll see it changing speed now down to 1.6 and back up. It'll kind of adjust on its own. But the problem with the stuttering you're going to get is because it doesn't switch fast enough. I found if you switch it onto interactive, it switches a little faster, but yeah, it is what it is. That is Debian. So now let me just, I'm going to have to shut this down. And I'm going to switch out the SD card. So it's off. The SD card, I don't know if it's because I don't have nails or whatever, but the SD card is really hard to eject, to push it in so that it clicks, so that it pops out. So I have to use something else. I have to use the corner of something. I actually use the micro SD adapter, the larger SD card, to be able to push it in and make it click so it pops out. Putting it in is fine, but I have a lot of trouble getting it out. So this is booting Bionic Mate. This is based on Ubuntu 18.04. It actually runs a little bit smoother than, you can't see the login screen right now because it's on a different screen, but I'll log this in. It does run a little bit smoother than the Debian Mate because it is using, I assume it's because it's using Mate 1.20. It's using a newer version of Mate compared to Debian. And it's pretty smooth. We don't get the flashing cursor like we do in Debian. It's using the same kernel. They both use kernel 4.4. I think I installed NeoFetch. Yeah. So yeah, 18.04.3 LTS. And works really good. It's smoother. You can see there's still some there on the screen. It's smoother on the LCD panel, anyways, a little bit. And it still has the clock speed changer, and it has slightly newer software. Also, the menus and just the general user interface is just smoother. Sometimes in the Debian one, when you hit that button, for example, the menu button, you get a black window first, and then it fills with the info or with the graphics. So I don't know if it's just because it's an older version of Mate, whatever. I just find this runs smoother. So in this one, I have Flatpaks installed. So that's why you see 2 of everything. And this is also where you will suffer on an SD card, because the SD card reads around 40 megs per second, and the internal eMMC got around 170. So it's a huge difference. And running Flatpaks, of course, it has to load all its Flatpak libraries. It does get a little faster after the first time you open something, but yeah. This is using, this is a newer version. This is 6.3, a little smoother, no more graphical glitches, but yeah, things are a little bit slower. Once you have a document open and you're actively editing, it's fine. There's no big difference here. There's no big deal. Video watching, VLC, I wouldn't recommend even installing it. It chokes pretty hard. It's really not optimized for ARM processors or this GPU. Like, it's really, really bad, really choppy. Yeah, you can see how bad that is. Yeah. So don't even bother with VLC. Keep with the ones that are installed. So the SM player and this MPV accelerated media player. It's accelerated for the Rock Pro chip. This is SM player here. Again, way better than VLC, really smooth. The performance for Chromium and Netflix, or sorry, not Netflix, and YouTube is just as good in Bionic Mate, but I can't get Netflix or Prime working, or Disney Plus. So none of the streaming stuff was working for me in Chromium or Netflix. I don't know why. This Widevine thing is like new to me, and ARM processors are new to me, so uh, maybe I'll figure it out one day, but right now I'm just kind of tinkering and been playing with it and trying out different distros. So you have the accelerated media player, which is like the other one that I showed you where you couldn't see the video. Same deal here. I'm not going to pick it because you're just going to see a blank screen. You're not going to be able to see the video. But using that player is the smoothest option, and you see no tearing, no artifacts, or I should say, like, very, very rare will you spot an artifact or tearing, and it's usually only with really fast motion. So, good choice using this in either of the operating systems. So, yeah, this is Mate Bionic, little newer, little smoother, little better. And now let's move on to Manjaro. So, shut that down. Wait for it to turn off. I know on the screen you guys are seeing right now is like a freeze frame of the last video that was sent to my USB recorder. And click and power back on. So I haven't flashed anything yet to the eMMC, but I will. I'm just trying to decide which distro I want on the local hard drive. Hardware wise, there's a couple of issues, and I'll just talk about that here after I log in. So log in. Manjaro ARM. This is 19.12.1. I couldn't get the plasma version working. I don't know why. I tried 7 or 8 times. I tried with 3 different brands of SD cards. Wouldn't work. I tried it with Etcher. I tried it using just DD. Nothing. I tried the Manjaro XFCE, and it worked first time. So I don't know. Is this installed? No. I don't know what the issue was with that, but it just wouldn't work. So the good thing about Manjaro ARM, there are some bad things too. The good thing, it's using kernel 5.4, and the external display works. However, I was talking to some people on the Pinebook Pro groups regarding Manjaro. If you upgrade, it will probably break the video out. So I'm not upgrading because I won't be able to show you the desktop here. So that's unfortunate because I'm not going to upgrade. Another thing that's unfortunate is because it's Manjaro, it's based on Arch, it's a rolling release. And so you're going to have a lot of updates. I think this was it 500 and something? Yeah, 528 megs of updates. And I just installed this. This is the latest version available online of Manjaro ARM, and it's already got over half a gig of updates. So that kind of sucks a lot. I would love to be able to use a newer kernel and newer software, but if it's going to be constantly upgrading, I'm a little worried about that because I really want this for stability, right? So, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I kind of want to keep My computer clock is wrong. Yes, it is. It is not December 4th. That's another issue that I've had. You have to change the time zone and everything every time you install. I haven't looked into setting the hardware clock. I was just setting the clocks and time zones manually, and it worked. I just haven't done it yet here. But regardless, I would like to keep Debian or even Bionic, keep something that's LTS, just so that it's more stable. I don't have to worry about upgrades, because the more upgrades you have, the more you have to worry about something breaking, right? I mean, it's just the way it is. LibreOffice here. It's just the way it is, and there's nothing that you can really do about that. So let me also go back into this and let's play a video. All right, so I fixed that now, so now I should be able to go on YouTube. So another thing with Manjaro is I'm not sure what they do with their frequencies. This is the last distro that I've tried. It's still pretty new, and I don't know what they do in the background, but there's no applet here to be able to change what power settings you're on. Again, not something I've looked into yet, but I will. Let me just make sure the volume's not too loud here. So you can see the video works pretty well, pretty smooth. This is 720p at 50 frames per second. Let's see what happens full screen. So now I don't know if this is a compositor thing or if this is the newer kernel thing, but the performance overall in Manjaro is smoother. But there are issues like sleeping. The computer won't sleep. If you close the lid, it won't do anything. If you go into the menu and you say sleep, it will turn off the display and then it doesn't do anything and you can't bring it back. So that's something that is definitely an issue, something that definitely needs to be worked on, and I'm sure it's in the works. I also had a couple of times where USB-C just randomly turned off. I don't know why. It had some power issues that I read in dmessage. So yeah, I don't know. That's something else that I'll look into later on. But you could see here in this video as I've been talking that the 50 frames per second is a little harder for it to process. It's not as smooth now that it's bumped its way up to 1080p. Not too bad, but yeah, not the greatest. So saying that, which distro would I stick with? I think I'm torn between Bionic and Debian, to be honest. I kind of want to stick with Debian just because the OS is more stable and they've fixed the issue of USB. So USB 3, for some reason, and USB-C doesn't always work. I find from my own testing, what I've done is if I've ever put the computer to sleep, the USB 3 in Bionic won't come back up. It powers off and it won't wake up again. I have to actually reboot for it to work. Also, just in general, the USB 3 and the USB-C aren't powerful enough to run larger drives. So I have an external NVMe hard drive with an SSD inside that won't work on the Pinebook Pro. Same with a USB 3.0 mechanical external drive that I have won't work with the Pinebook Pro. Only flash drives work, and hard drives that have its own power source, like the old big ones that have the full-size hard drive in it. Yes, I have a couple of those still. So if that's plugged into the wall and it's only using USB for data and not power, it works fine. Not sure. I don't know if that could be fixed on the software side or if that's just a limitation of the hardware. That's something that I'm looking into, but it's a little better in Debian. I don't know what they've done. Maybe something that resets the USB controller, but in Debian, it's not so much of an issue putting it to sleep, waking it up, and then using the USB 3 ports again. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to kind of keep switching back and forth between all of them, but I'm not going to keep Manjaro if it can't sleep. Maybe when they fix that, I will switch to it a little longer and then see what happens. But the constant updates on this is kind of turning me off. And I know that's what Manjaro is. I used Manjaro for a long time, and now I use Arch, by the way. But I just not for this device. You know, it's too lightweight. It's not something that I want updating and then breaking. This is something that I want to be able to just grab, take with me, and just use whenever I need it, and not have to worry about, oh, it did some updates and now something's broken or whatever, right? So I will probably stick with the built-in Debian, which I have to reinstall, by the way, because the Debian that I have that was installed on my machine, it had some kind of a bug. I'm not sure what happened, but the Widevine, the plugin that allows you to watch Netflix and Prime stopped working. I tried reinstalling it. It's not working. I did all the updates. It's not working. And others have experienced the same thing. So that's an issue. So I'm just going to reinstall onto the eMMC onboard drive because it's not working. So, but the Debian version that I showed you was running on an SD card, which means that a reinstallation gets it working again. So that's what I'm going to do. I probably played with it too much and I wrecked something or something. I don't know. So yeah, check it out. Have a look. Can't go wrong with the price. Comes with a ISO keyboard variant or an ANSI keyboard variant. I went with ISO simply because they were shipping it first. That's the only reason why. The keyboard layout is a little different. Like the @ symbol is over by the enter key instead of shift 2, but I just changed my keyboard layout to US and then it acts like a US keyboard. So I'm not concerned. If you know where the keys are, you can just set it to US and then there you go. Shift 2 is my @ key now, and that works just fine. But the very, very best thing I wanted to say about this device is that it shows what Linux communities can do. This is a piece of hardware that is good quality, performs very well, and is $199. So this is like a catalyst. This is a big step into what you can do with open source hardware and running open source software on it. I'm not saying that this is the best device out there. I'm not saying that this is for everybody. If you want something for media, specifically only for media or gaming, maybe not get this. Some older games work. RetroArch is reportedly working really, really well. I tried toying around with it a little bit, and there's some Arch packages or ARM packages missing and stuff like that. So I don't know what I was getting myself into. Maybe I broke a whole bunch of stuff. Who knows? I couldn't get games working properly. But anyways, that's probably just me. Like I said, I don't know what I'm doing with ARM stuff, but this machine is fantastic. Is it worth it? For $199? Yes. I would say for $399, it's worth it. I mean, I've purchased some netbooks that were twice as much as this, and they're garbage compared to this. So, yeah, definitely something that is worth having. Definitely something that's nice to have. I'm going to be able to travel with this. I can just pick it up and use it anytime. It's light. The battery lasts a long time. I'm getting like 6 hours at least out of it just doing Telegram and basic web browsing. Movies, you could probably get through a movie and a half, maybe 2 movies. I don't know. I haven't tried it. Also, depending on what kind of quality they are and what format and etc. But yeah, would I suggest someone get one? Yes. If it's your first Linux device, maybe not, unless all you want to do is browse the net and do documents. Sure. And then just don't do any updates or anything in case something breaks. But yeah, I would say go for it. If you have 199 bucks and you want a little device to carry around and get on the internet with and edit documents using LibreOffice, awesome, go for it. And upgradable, easy to open, easy to play with. So, and it's got all the stuff that you need to know on the wiki. So yeah, check it out. And I'm going to try more things with it in the future and post a couple more videos, but I was wanting to just get through this entire first look thing here without making a super long video, which it turned out to be anyways. But I wanted to cover what I've done so far, what I've played with so far, what I've learned so far, and I hope this is informative and maybe a little bit useful. If you have any specific questions about the Pinebook Pro, please post up in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything that you think that I missed, anything important. Do you have one? Do you use it? Do you like it? I like mine, and I use it all the time now. Instead of my main MSI laptop, I'm just carrying this thing around now. I sit on the couch with it, and it's perfect. It really reminds me of having my old MacBook Air, just running Linux instead. So that's all I got for now. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit like. If you haven't subscribed to me yet, please do. You can also follow me over on Twitter at Dorian.Slash. I've been posting a lot about the Pinebook Pro lately. And also head on over to patreon.com and contribute to my channel and help me contribute to the Linux community. That's all for now, so until next time, bash on.